For staying with us. Join us on this segment is a business and economic intelligence analyst, Mr. Roman Oseghale. He will be speaking on the rising cost of the dollars and the 2024 budget. According to him, the budget will not make Nigerians richer, rather it will make them poorer. You can join the conversation on 081-076-41679, 090-241-63440. You can also tweet to us at TVC Connect. Please hashtag TVC Entertainment _ and you can hashtag your view TVC so we can read your tweets. Okay, you're welcome to the show, Mr. Oseghale. It's always good to have you during these economic tough times. You know, we always remember, there's Mr. Roman, let's call him to give us clarity. So let's start with the dollar issue, then we'll come back to the budget a bit later. Okay. Now, everybody's complaining. The basic knowledge out there is that, okay, Nigeria has to produce and manufacture so that we can have more dollars. But for whatever reason, we're still not there yet. And the dollars we have right now, our Naira keeps dropping. And it's weakening transactions, it's weakening businesses, it's weakening cost of things have gone up. In layman's terms, could you help Nigerians who don't understand what is going on? They're just angry that they're unable to buy things and things. Even so, I saw a video, somebody was complaining about pure water bag now. It's 215 for the bag. Something that used to be 100 Naira. It's now 250 just the bag. So Nigerians don't get the dollar conversation. They just understand that things are high. Could you help us break it down so that the man out there can understand what's going on? Okay.
Thank you very much for inviting me over. I like to deal with numbers. I don't go sentimental. If you write 2 + 2, if you're expecting 5, I'll tell you it's 4 because that's what the numbers say. Let's go to slide 1 and I'll show you. You're already laughing. Yeah. We'll go through the numbers and we'll definitely see how it started and where we're at. Slide 1, please. See, for those of us who are old enough, who lived through the 70s, 80s, 90s, and the 2000s, you will notice that in the 70s we had a very robust economy, right? We had a very robust economy. And that economy was basically based on the fact that we had a lot of trade surpluses. And what that means is that we exported more than we imported. You understand? So, for instance, you sold goods worth 10,000 Naira, right? And you bought goods worth 5,000 Naira. So you have extra 5,000 Naira to run your household. Yeah. That's what it means. Now, but in 1981, what was giving us that money was crude oil from the 70s. And in 1981, that oil boom came to an end. 1981, 82, 83, we recorded trade deficits, which accumulated to 13.95 trillion, approximately $95 billion, approximately $14 billion. The trade deficit and the end of the oil boom plunged us into almost 23 years of economic woes.
What caused the deficit?
Now, as I said, oil boom came to an end. Yeah. Because we're a monolithic economy. Okay. Oil is our major import. Our major export and our major earner in dollars, right? So because that oil boom came to an end and we were not able to export other commodities to give us the dollars we needed, the Naira started crashing against the dollars. Obviously, the laws of demand and supply will come in. Now, we suffered that setback for 23 years. If you go to slide 12, if you go to slide 12, the last slide, you will see that in 1980, crude oil price was $35.52. And then it did not go back to that $35.52 until 2004. Mind you, population was also increasing, right? So what has happened again now? We had the oil boom of the 2000s that ended in 2013. Let's go back to slide 1. That ended in 2013. And from 2014, we recorded trade deficits in 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022. Official figure for 2023 is not out. Okay. So What is the accumulated figure? 125.34 billion. And that's why I said 2 years ago, right, that the tsunami was coming. And we've not even started. That's the truth. I'll be very honest. We have not even started. So we're looking at a scenario whereby you have your economy that is fixated on a particular product, and that product is not giving you the income anymore, right? I said this was it last week at another TV station. If you look at the trajectory of the economy from 1970, you find out that there's no administration, head of state, government, or president that has done anything spectacular in office outside the price and quantities of crude oil. If you have price and quantities on your side, right, when you're president, there's this euphoria of like you're performing. But you got to look at, when you look at the figures, you find out that it is the oil prices and quantities that is driving the economy, because we're earning a lot at that particular time. But if you have price and quantity against you, you're in trouble. And that's what we've been having. So we've not been having enough dollar come into the economy because we've been having massive trade deficits.
Okay. Hey. So we hear you. We hear the doom and the despair. And we hear how we've found ourselves here.
Yes.
Now we're here, and we just want to find a way forward. Could you tell us, because you said that no president has done anything substantial in all these years, what could they have done?
Okay, let me explain something to you, right? All this problem started, see, if you look at, when you study economics, right? When you see something reacting today, it's probably the failure of a policy 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Wow.
So our job is to trace it with numbers, right? So there was a video I did, it was 42 minutes, which I took the economy from 1960. I analyzed it every year till 2021 or 2022, about 2 years ago. Now, if you look at the trajectory of the economy, this whole problem started in 1970. In the 60s, we had a thriving economy that was built on productivity. The only time that we found GDP dropping was during the Civil War. It dropped 67 and 68. And by 69, it had already gone up again and surpassed the 67 GDP. Despite the fact that crude oil price dropped by 22%. GDP increased from 1960 to 69 by 54%. 22% drop, but 54% increase in GDP. And our GDP per capita was also increasing. But all that changed in 1970. The demand of crude oil from the industrialized West, right, now put a lot of pressure on Nigeria to supply crude. And then in 1970, crude was $1.27 per barrel. By 1974, it jumped to almost $12. Why? The Yom Kippur War. Now, the Yom Kippur War, where the Arab nations attacked Israel, right? And to punish the US because they supported Israel, the Arab nations decided not to sell oil, the oil embargo of 1973. So because there was an oil embargo from the Middle East, the West turned to countries like Nigeria to fill in that gap. And then prices now jumped up from $1.27 to almost $12, over 800%, right?
What did we do with it?
And that was when the sitting head of state said money was not our problem,
but
how to spend it. And then that price remained relatively stable because of the instability in the Middle East, right? Coupled with the fact that there was so much demand from the industrialized West. By 1979, another scenario happened again, the coming of the Ayatollah, where the Iranian Revolution, where they seized the American embassy, held people hostage, and by then, crude oil also cut off from Iran. So by 1980, when Iran and another event, Iran and Iraq went to war and disrupted oil flow from Iraq again, oil reached $35.34 from just $1.27 per barrel. You understand? In 1970, in just 10 years. So we were washed with petrodollars that we did not even know what to do with it. Now, what that meant was that we had high reserve. We had a very strong currency. Now, if you look at from the 70s, right, we had started developing companies that were manufacturing. But because we had a very strong Naira and coupled with high dollar reserve and then infrastructure deficit, it now became cheaper to import than manufacture. That's how our local industries started dying off one by one. By 1981, crude oil is directly proportional to inflation. It cost the Reagan administration had to bring in monetary policy to quickly control the inflation. And by the time they did that, they themselves started mining crude oil, flooded the market, and then prices crashed. And then Nigeria's economy, that was the beginning of our economic woes.
My question, I get it. So you've just even further elaborated what you had spoken about earlier. But I was saying, let's just take a particular administration, for example. What would we say Obasanjo's administration did wrong? What would we say or did right?
Okay. One thing I'll give to President Obasanjo, he followed the books. And when I say followed the books, he followed the principles of accounting and finance, right? Where your asset equals, your total net worth equals your asset plus your liabilities. So what he did that particular time, when we got money, he reduced our liabilities. That is, he sold crude, put it in the foreign reserve, and put it in excess crude oil account. That meant that our assets, right, went up, right? And then they were also able to reduce our liabilities by convincing the Western world to write off our debt and then also pay off some. You understand? That immediately brought us up. It increased our asset base and our net worth. You understand? But basically, when you say manufacturing, your currency is directly proportional to how productive an economy is. You understand? If your productivity increases and money supply remains constant, a unit of your currency will buy more. Or if your productivity increases and money supply decreases, a unit of your currency will buy more. But there was nothing spectacular that was done. The only thing that we saw was GSM. It wasn't our technology. As they say, innovation is what pushes every economy to a new potential.
Okay. I need to go on a break, though, but then you said a lot of things of helping us understand the problem, right? We come back, we'll see how we can begin to arrive to some solutions. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Thanks for staying with us. We're still discussing the economy. You had a question.
Yes, so it's from your analysis and looking at history, it's been obvious that our leaders so far have lacked vision in where they wanted us to go. Because from the accounting that you just gave now on how we were making so much money based off of, certain wars that were happening, and then we're shoring up our foreign reserve and all of that, I would think, because being an individual who looks at her home and how she wants her home to grow, the time of abundance is the time that you even tighten your belt the more, the time that you invest the more, the time that you look into other aspects so that the abundance continues and you don't get to a point where you have eaten everything and you're looking again and hoping that a miracle happens. So far, we have not reasoned in that direction, because from what you said now, I know a lot of things that we could have done with that boom at the time to make sure that we get to where we're going to, if we had a vision for that. But that has happened, and we have made all the mistakes as leaders, right? Now, the question is, where we are right now, where our currency is not anything to write home about, what can we do as individuals, one, to ensure that we begin to give a form of hope to our currency? Because now the fear is that because the federal government, so to speak, is not giving any form of incentive for people to even save in Naira, people are losing money, keeping money in the banks. You know what is not happening? Everybody now wants to go to buy the USD to show up. What can we do as individuals and also as governments to even encourage people to, work with the Naira and save and buy in Naira?
I think the first thing is everybody should live below their means. Okay. That's the first thing. Live below your means. this is not a time where you want to impress anyone, right? Put your children in schools that you can afford, right? Don't try to put your children in expensive schools that you now put the burden on other people trying to raise money. But basically, right, it still boils down to the government. The government needs to create confidence in the economy. Right. Now, why is all these things happening? It's because you and I have lost confidence in the economy and we lost confidence in leadership. Yeah. That's why we're sending our children abroad. That's why we're going for medicals abroad. And all these things are putting pressure. You understand? Once I see these figures that I know that we're recording trade deficits, the next thing I know is that once you record trade deficit, the next thing that happens is you record budget deficits. You can't cover your budget. And once you record budget deficit, the next thing is you borrow, right? You start to borrow. So if you go to slide 2, for instance now, right? Look at our budget deficit has increased from 1.08 trillion in 2015 to 10.80 trillion in 2023. You understand? So it's a vicious cycle that you now get caught up in some kind of poverty.
Go ahead.
So it's a vicious cycle that you get caught up in poverty. And it cannot stop unless you have productivity to shore up the currency, that the dollars, to bring in more dollars into the economy. Then secondly, the budget. The budget is the fundamental, the financial backbone, right, that you inject into the economy every year to either boost the economy or to revive the economy. Now, when you look at our budget, right, sorry to say, the budget is not going to make us any richer. It's going to make us poorer. Because if you follow the principles of accounting and finance, right, you have a budget that is $36 billion in dollars, right? 30% is going into debt service, right? I think another.
Recurrent.
Yes, no. Budget deficit, then debt service, right? Budget deficit is about 36%, and then your debt service is about 28.7%. So you're basically increasing your liabilities, right? Of that 36 billion, how much is going into investments? Remember, there was about 2 years ago when I came here, I demonstrated that each time you mine your crude, right, you're actually depleting your assets. So they pegged the budget at 1.78 million barrels per day, right? If you times that by 365, and you do the dollar which was used, the dollar rate which was used in the budget, you find out that we're going to deplete our crude oil to the tune of 50.4 billion US dollars this year. Now, how much of that money is going into investment?
Development.
Do you get? Now, you have education, health, and works. Total in the budget is just 3.69, let's just say 3.7 trillion. Of the 28.7 trillion, which is just 13% of the budget.
Of the main,
you understand? Of the
that's
main
your
budget.
main industry.
Do you get it? Yeah. Now, you're depleting your assets and you're not reinvesting to cover the liabilities. Okay. So basically, the budget it's been designed right from the onset to make us poorer. If you understand the principles of accounting. Then second, before
you go further, so what you're saying with that sentence is that the budget should have actually funded those 3 sectors: the works, health, and education.
Let me break it.
So imagine we had about 40 or 30%.
Okay, good. Let me break it down to a layman's. Now, your dad says, "Oh, I am 90, and I want to divide up my assets so that when I die, I don't want anybody to start fighting over anything." So, Morayo, I'm going to give you 10 houses, and those 10 houses each cost 100 million. That means on the book, immediately you're worth $1 billion naira, right? Okay. And Morayo now says, oh, there's no need to work again now. Let me just, TVC, let me just take my life jejely. You understand? Now, you now take one house every year, you sell. when you sell, you get 100 million, right? Yeah. When you sell, you've not made money. All you've done is you converted your fixed asset to current assets, right? So you now hop on a plane, you buy a first-class ticket, you go to Milan, you go to Paris, you end up in Grenada to go and do party. You understand? Do you understand? You buy the Louis Vuitton bags and shoes.
Yes, sir.
And then you change your car to probably maybe a G-Wagon. And then you now come back. Everybody around you will say Morayo has arrived, right? Sir. But on paper, are you richer or you're poorer?
Poorer.
Good. And then if you're doing the same thing over and over again, I can look at you from the figures and say, in the next 10 years, Morayo is going to be broke. Yeah. That's why Bill Gates was able to say that by 2050, Nigeria and the DRC will account for 40% of the people living in extreme poverty worldwide. Because we're depleting our asset, but there is no reinjection of investment to cover that liability. So basically, we are getting poorer. And remember, if you were only 5 in your household, right, when they gave you that house, by the time it's 1 billion, that means that
three housemaids.
No, that means that those 5 per capita is 200 million, right? But every year you're giving birth to 2 twins. You can imagine how the per capita will be dropping. Do you understand? And then let me discuss also the size of the budget. This is where it scares you. See, please go to slide. Let's go to slide 12. No, sorry. Slide 7, please. See, our budget is like a drop.
As compared to the need.
As compared to the need. Now, between 2014 and 2021, our budget hovered around an average of 29 billion. It didn't even increase. Population is increasing. Yeah. For comparison purposes, South Africa, right, in 2022-2023, had a budget of $136 billion US dollars. For less than about 60 million people then. Now, of that 136.6 billion US dollars, 26.94 was allocated to education. And then another 16.4 was allocated to health. That's about 44 billion US dollars, right? So you see, 44 billion US dollars for investment in just health and education for about 60 million people.
Can I pause you for a second? Yeah. Because as a layman, I'm thinking to myself, it sounds great on paper for me to take this amount of money and invest. But when you invest in education, for example, it takes minimum 10, 15 years for you to begin to reap the benefits of that education. So when you come into an economy, let me finish. If you come into an economy where there's abject poverty, people just want handouts. Just give us 10,000, 20,000 naira. People are clamoring for, we need to eat. We know those great things are nice. They sound great on paper, build bridges. What are you building bridges for when I've not eaten? Yeah. So the mentality is like, feed me first. Yeah. So do you think that could be a challenge of government saying, we have poor people, they have to eat first before I start doing all this.
Let me
ask you something. Yes, please. What part of the budget that you see that they say they are putting money for you and I to eat?
That's the thing. So I've held on to, because I know
Go.
Yes, so it's comments and question. The biggest challenge we're having is we're not stimulating the economy the right way.
God bless you.
So we're paying salary, we're not rewarding productivity.
God bless you.
And if you put money in education right now, you would stimulate the sector by construction of more schools.
God bless you.
Pay salaries that will make the teachers want to do work. The results might be, the final result is in 20 years' time, but the immediate result is people will earn based on what they have earned, where they are earning. I mean, they will earn well from where their effort is going into. Same for health. If you put money into health sector, we'll build more hospitals, we would empower the engineers. They would earn from where they are working. And then we'll have a better quality of life. If you put money into works, construction work would spring up everywhere. We tie the construction workers to be Nigerians, where we're not bringing in Chinese, Indians, Cotonou people to come and earn from where we are trying to stimulate the economy. By the time money is flowing, the market woman will sell tomato because I am already earning from my work I'm doing. So we are stimulating through salary, and we cannot pay enough Nigerians. This is how you stimulate well, and we're not doing it.
So I hear that, but I also hear on one side when we try to have a big budget, every time, immediate response. This is the biggest budget we've ever had. What does, people, people don't, every time I see economic policies, going a certain way, immediately we get the reaction from the human angle, human interest angle. People are too poor for these your economic policies. We cannot stand it right now. People are, people need handouts, as you said. We need something right now. We need money to be given to us. You're saying we cannot pay enough salary, but people want monies to be handed to them.
But
we have no, but the thing with Nigerian conversation is, on one hand, we say we want money to be injected into infrastructure, all these facilities. On the other hand, when we're doing that, we hear Nigerians again complaining of how we are further impoverishing people. So which one is it? That's why it's my first question. Even though it didn't come across well, is what would have been the perfect way the government would have handled it?
She's answered the question. The perfect way is if you inject money into investment, investment will create wealth. That's just it. If you do you know that construction is actually used as a yardstick? No, not just stimulate, to measure the progress of an economy. Once a lot of constructions are going on, you know that, yes, the economy...
So construction hasn't been going on in the last...
Look, I just said something earlier, right? Our budget is a drop of water in a bucket of what it should be. Really? South Africa with 60 million people, they are using 136.6 billion.
So we need a bigger budget.
We need a budget of about between 2 to 250 billion US dollars that will create that effect we need in the economy.
Then our priorities are wrong, even the one we have.
We'll come to the priorities. Yeah. Now that budget, that budget that you're suggesting, where do you get the money from? Borrowing?
Yeah.
See, we should not borrow.
So how do I get that money?
Yeah.
See, I think we need to go back to productivity. And second, when you are productive, let me give a scenario here, right? All our industries are dead, whether you like it or not, right? And that's because government is not doing the plus or minus. I'll give a scenario. In 2019, the dairy industry in the US, right? It's actually cheaper to import. But in 2019, dairy industry in the US added economic impact. Total economic impact was about 620 or 28 billion US dollars, right? Now, but the government kept it because it employs 3 million Americans. It pays out about 159.9 billion US dollars in wages, right? And it also pays another $24.4 billion in state and local taxes, and another $39 billion in federal taxes. Now, imagine you kill that industry by importation. What happens? You render 3 million people jobless. There's going to be high divorce rate. Boys will end up in prison. There's going to be divorce. You understand? Government is going to pay more
social support.
No, social support. They are going to pay more unemployment benefit. By the time you crunch the numbers, it tells you what to do. It is cheaper. Government subsidized that industry to the tune of 39 billion. We better give them this 39 billion because if we kill this industry, it might cost us. All these things that you're looking at, the intangible and tangible assets, might cost us as much as 100 billion. So you make your decisions. But we do not have people.
So in answering my question, of where do I get the money right now for $250 billion
we need to go back
to run this economy?
We need to go back to productivity. I'll give you an instance. Recently, President Tinubu signed the DICON bill. Now, if you study the DICON bill very well, it says that we cannot import anymore arms, right? If you go to the DICON factories in Kaduna, you will weep. Beautiful place, the machines are still there, but nobody is using it. Now, why are we not manufacturing the arms we need for self-reliance? Now, then secondly, if government can actually bring in policies, I would have expected by now, right? What government needs to do first is look at the various sectors and bring out the same policies. For instance, do you know how many school children you have in this country? That you can say, you know what, we need XYZ companies to manufacture their uniforms. We stop bringing all those things in.
The cotton must
Do you understand?
come locally.
The cotton must come locally. Before you know.
You put it into the textile.
Yes, before you know, the pressure on the dollar will start to reduce.
But you also say it takes a while for...
Yes.
No, permit me, sir, to say something in the short term.
Please.
An investment in our education now would reduce our forex need for education travel.
Exactly.
An investment in our health now would reduce the health dollar flights going for healthcare.
These are ideal.
Not ideal.
Wait,
not ideal.
let finish.
What I'm saying, when you check the percentage, the healthcare budget right now is not even going into any change in improving our healthcare. It is going into paying salaries. It will back it up with
when you
give them 1.2 trillion, you are barely paying good salary. But we are calculating every day how much dollar is being sucked out of our much needed system to pay for education abroad.
So,
and
thank you for taking me to where I'm going
abroad.
Because I know on this table, I've always criticized the middle class because of our taste for foreign education, our taste for sausages, our taste for our taste for foreign. Because the middle class will tell you, listen, I have the money. I can afford. You said live below my. I earned it. Don't judge what I choose to do with my money.
Let me buttress what you've said. We all want to be like Singapore. We all want to be like China, right? During Lee Kuan Yew's time, please go to slide 11. During Lee Kuan Yew's time, right, scarce forex was only allocated for 3 things. One, medicines and drugs, essentials. 2, machineries. 3, raw materials. So the goal and the psychology was go buy the machineries, buy the raw materials, convert it and sell to the world. Look at what's on the in 2022, Singapore is smaller than Lekki Peninsula. Singapore is 728 square kilometers. Lekki Peninsula is 755 square kilometers. Now, Singapore exported a total of $870.81 billion worth of goods and services. The whole of sub-Saharan Africa. 46, 47 countries, 23 million square kilometers, 1.1 billion people, only exported 548.87 billion. So you see what he sold there, right? You see how it has germinated.
So
and
now I'll let Busi jump in here because there's an angle I want to go, but let Busi jump in here.
So I see the problem. We all are to blame, one way or the other. And I know that first of all would hold our leaders accountable. And why are we holding our leaders accountable? You know, Morayo mentioned something that what if the people are saying that they want to eat? And that is where I differ, because the people can say whatever they are saying. But if the leaders know that it's not this immediate 5,000 naira I'm going to be sending to you, will take us out, they can make policies and refuse to give that amount of money. But the problem is, because we are very interest-based, we are thinking of, we have not finished sorting the problem we have today. We are thinking of the next election that we're coming and we want to be voted in. So why don't we give the people what they want so that we'll have an opportunity to come back again? That's on one hand. Secondly, the production we are shouting now, we should have, you know, we have quite a number of manufacturers who are struggling to even make something, who are struggling with policies. We are sitting down here, we have people who will come in from outside, foreigners who will come in, who banks will give loans. Their country will give them loans to compete with the local manufacturers here who are still struggling to even have a form of electricity. Now, how do you want them to compete? At the end of the day, their products are more expensive and people will want to buy the cheaper ones. So how do you think government can help us? Especially the people in that production, in the manufacturing, to say, we have your back. And how does our own bad character not scatter the whole thing? Because we Nigerians also have a problem. They give you the loans, and then you refuse to pay back.
And that is a different matter.
Can I add, all this is part of it, so let me just add this as part of it. Please, let me just put this as part of it, which is, for me as a Nigerian, who I just am, you know, just hopeful that things will change, you know, and I'm looking at one administration after the other with different economic policies and how we react to it. So now let's just use this simple example of the fuel subsidy or no fuel subsidy. Eventually, we got to a point where many Nigerians were agreeing that it had to go. And then the moment it left, we have conversations every day of how Nigerians are further impoverished every day. So my question is, what is it that we want as a country? What exactly are Nigerians willing to sacrifice? You are saying Singapore had to make sacrifice. What is it that Nigerians are willing to sacrifice? Is this just an economic policy problem, or just policy problem from the government? or is it just a Nigerian problem where we feel that we can do both?
Okay.
And finally, all the administration, is it that there is no administration, all these brains that we have going back and forth, working in different international organizations, they don't know what to do?
Okay, I'll come back to you. Let me just quickly see, it all boils down to having confidence in the government. That's just it. If I know that the president will do what he is saying, he will cut down on the cost of governance from the executive to the legislators, right? I will be ready. If I know that the president is going to invest in education, I will tell my kids to come back, that the education system is going to be better. If I know that a bunch of lawmakers will not go and buy how many jeeps? How many jeeps? Yeah. They carry 250 something billion, right? And go buy jeeps, and then they come on air to defend it when people are
with
suffering.
Their full chest.
Exactly. I will do the needful. The bottom line of your question is that the people in government, they have self-interest, not national interest. Yeah. And when you have self-interest in government, right? The first thing people...
Is that a generalization?
Yeah, or everybody? The government's fault.
By their fruits, we know them.
By what they are doing. There were PDP in the house, there's Labour in the house, there's APC in the house. All of them. How many? Just not one person stood up and said, I will not take this.
I'm not taking this car.
So you see that when they are campaigning, they campaign based on they discredit each other, but when they enter that house, they connive to rape and plunder the
in the shopping.
Yes. So that's just it. So when I look at things, I just see that these people don't have my self-interest. So I better do what is best for me.
I take care of myself. So all of us
Let me go on a short break. When I come back, we continue our conversation. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Stay tuned. Your View will be right back.